Have you ever wondered why no matter how fast you run, sadness and exhaustion always seem to catch up to you? We often fear silence, believing it to be empty. But Stoic philosophy reveals a deeper truth. Silence is not the absence of sound, it is the place where your soul finally learns to speak. Most of us suffer not because life is cruel, but because we have forgotten the home within ourselves. This video is not a collection of hollow cliches about happiness. It is a deep journey into the mind across 5 stages, from confronting old wounds to mastering the art of letting go to find absolute freedom. If you feel lost amidst the noise of the modern world, this video was created for you. Find a quiet space, take a deep breath, and stay with us until the very end. Because the answer you have been searching for has likely been within you all along. I once believed that people suffer because life is too cruel. Then I believe people suffer because society is too unjust. After years of reading Marcus Aurelius, contemplating Seneca, and silently conversing with Epictetus through countless long nights, I was forced to admit a truth: both harsher and more liberating people suffer, mainly because they have forgotten the home within themselves. We are good at wandering, but poor at returning. When I read the sentence, "Silence is not empty, it is where your soul learns to speak," I did not treat it as a vague spiritual slogan. To one who studies Stoicism, silence is not an escape from life, but a return to the place where life truly begins. A Stoic does not seek peace in distant mountains and forests, but in inner stillness amid chaos. Silence is not the absence of sound, but the absence of the noise of judgment, fear, and excessive desire. When the chaotic voices in your head cease their siege, you begin to hear the deepest part of you whispering. And I tell those who are in despair, in the moments that feel most empty, you are planting the seeds of a quiet rebirth. Many people fear silence. They turn on music, scroll endlessly, seek conversations, just to avoid being alone. But running from silence is also running from oneself. I was once the same, and I paid for it with constant spiritual exhaustion. Only when I dared to sit with silence and look directly at my most painful thoughts did I understand silence was not killing me. What was killing me was a life without dialogue with my soul. At a deeper level, I read, "Every breath is a second chance to return to yourself," as a true Stoic manifesto. For a Stoic, the present is not merely a slice of time. The present is the only place where freedom exists. Each breath is an escape from the past and a refusal to submit to the future. When you are in despair, you are rarely living in the present. You live in what should not have happened, or in what you fear will destroy you. And I assert there is no hell other than the human idea of the future. Breath does not save you by miracle. It does not erase debt, cure illness, or make life easier. But it wakes you up. And when you wake up, you are no longer a blind victim of emotional reflexes. You become the witness, and the witness does not drown. Breath is the anchor that holds you steady in the storm. In Stoicism, mastery over your reactions is far more powerful than mastery over circumstances. It pains me deeply to see people seeking everything outside while silently collapsing within. The sentence, "Stop searching outside. Everything you need is already within," does not tell you to stop living or retreat from the world. It states a bitter truth: if you do not carry peace in your heart, you cannot buy it anywhere. You can change cities, jobs, lovers, beds, even countries. But if fear and emptiness walk with you, then you are only a prisoner carrying your cell behind you. The Stoic does not equate happiness with convenience. Happiness is harmony between the self and reality. And that harmony cannot enter from the outside, it can only arise from within. I once sought my worth and achievement in the eyes of approval and affirmation. The result was exhaustion. Nothing was ever enough. Only when I returned to build an independent inner world did I begin to live without asking permission from others. Then comes the line. A calm mind can hear truths that noise always hides. And I realized why we can live a lifetime without understanding ourselves. A chaotic mind cannot see truth. It sees only fear disguised as assumption. It hears only old wounds echoed as reaction. A calm mind is different. It does not need much information. It needs clarity. We live in a world sick with noise not only of sound but of opinion news and contagious anxiety. Many believe that knowing more makes them stronger, but the Stoic knows the opposite. The fuller the mind, the less space there is for wisdom. I discovered that in the quietest moments of my life I saw most clearly who I was, what I feared, and where I had been lying to myself. If you are lost, I do not advise you to run anywhere. I advise you to sit down and listen. No one else can live your answers for you. Suffering ends where awareness begins is to me the pillar of all Stoic philosophy. People do not despair because of pain. They despair because they do not understand their pain. When you recognize your emotions, pain loses its power to dominate. When you observe anger, it weakens. When you name fear, you are no longer unconsciously controlled by it. Here is where Stoicism differs from blind endurance. A Stoic does not grit teeth and endure. A Stoic faces truth without escape, for only what is seen can be transformed. You hurt because of loss, but you suffer more because you refuse to look at your dependence. You hurt because of failure, but you suffer more because you identify yourself with outcomes. Awareness is the moment you realize that no event has the authority to define you unless you allow it. And when you do not allow it, even if circumstances remain unchanged, you become a different person. I cherish the line detached from outcomes and attached to awareness because it is the Stoic formula for freedom. We are addicted to results. We measure our worth by what happens outside us. One man is angry at the world because his job fails him. Another despises himself because a relationship collapses. But outcomes are never fully under your control. Awareness is. I have learned that a peaceful person is not one with a flawless life. A peaceful person is one who does not allow life to determine their dignity. When you transfer loyalty from outcomes to consciousness, you cease to be a hostage of the world. You become a citizen of your inner kingdom. A wandering mind is a tired soul is to me a medical diagnosis for the disease of our era. We are not tired because we do too much. We are tired because the mind never rests. A person can sit still while traveling 1,000 miles inside. We carry old conversations, fearful hypotheses, unanswered questions everywhere we go. And then we wonder why we are exhausted. A wandering mind is a sign of rootlessness. You live without presence. You love without truly being there. You work while your soul is elsewhere. Stoicism taught me to return to what is happening now. Not to escape reality, but to fully inhabit it. When you are here, you are less exhausted. When you are here, you regret less. When you are here, you stop missing your own life. I read, "The moment you stop running is the moment you arrive as the closing of the journey home." For years, we live like fugitives, running from sadness, running from loneliness, running from inadequacy. But the more we run, the more lost we become. A Stoic does not flee suffering. A Stoic stands still and watches it dissolve. You do not reach where you need to go by running. You arrive by stopping. Stop judging. Stop resisting. Stop arguing with reality. And in that stopping, something strange happens. You are no longer lost. For the lost are only those who are not where they stand. Last comes the line, enlightenment is not becoming someone new, but remembering who you are. Stoicism does not create a new person. It removes disguises. You do not need to fix yourself into someone else. You only need to stop betraying yourself. Stop living by borrowed definitions. Stop striving to satisfy values that are not your own. I tell those who feel useless, failed, empty, you are not broken. You have only forgotten. Forgotten what it feels like to be enough. Forgotten that you do not need to prove your existence. Forgotten that dignity does not rise from victory, but from how you stand after ruin. Stoicism does not make humans saints. It returns them to being human. A human who knows their limits, knows their fragility, but does not lose self-respect. A human who can hurt but does not collapse. can shatter but is not hollow. If you have read this far and feel your heart grow heavy, remember not because you are weak, but because you are touching the truth. And realization is the first step of transformation. Be silent. Breathe. Sit with yourself. You are not abandoned. You are returning. I have never met a mature human being without wounds. The only difference is whether they cover them with pride or expose them to the world with honesty. Stoicism did not teach me how to avoid suffering. It taught me how to look at suffering without collapsing. And that is a cruel but necessary art. When I read, pain does not come to punish you, but to teach you where you are still attached, I felt stripped bare. Every pain points to a place within us that still clings, still fears loss, still depends. Human beings do not suffer only because they lose. They suffer because they refuse to lose. And that refusal turns injury into a life sentence. I once suffocated in pain when someone left. Later, I understood that what I lost was not only a person, but the illusion that they belonged to me. Stoicism calls this an ontological error. No one belongs to anyone. Nothing is given to us forever. When you hurt, ask yourself, what am I clinging to that I never truly owned? And when you answer honestly, the blade of pain begins to dull. Next comes the line, you cannot heal your wound by pretending it does not exist. I have seen too many people bury themselves alive because they fear touching their pain. They smile while their hearts decay. They say they are fine while their souls bleed. And then they ask why they never heal. Stoicism never praises cheap strength. It does not teach you to tense your jaw and endure. It teaches you to be honest. Healing does not begin with forgetting. It begins with daring to admit. When you look directly at your wound, you stop being its enemy. When you stop fleeing memory, memory loses its power to govern you. I once sat in the dark room of myself, watching painful memories rise like corpses from the seabed. At first I trembled, then I grew calm, then I grew tired. And finally I became empty in a clean way. I realized that pain did not only wish to torture me, it wanted to be seen. The line, what you resist grows stronger. What you accept begins to fade is to me a psychological law stricter than any law of physics. What you fight does not die. It mutates. When you delete it, it hides. When you deny it, it disguises itself as self-destruction. Many believe strength means having no emotions. I say strength means not being afraid of emotions. When you allow yourself to be sad, sadness becomes human. When you allow yourself to hurt, pain no longer needs to scream. Acceptance is not surrender. Acceptance is stopping yourself from pouring oil on fire. Then comes, forgiveness is not forgetting. It is freeing yourself from the past. This is one of the most misunderstood sentences of all. Forgiveness is not a noble gesture for others. It is an act of survival for yourself. You are not forced to carry the person who hurt you once they are gone, but you may carry your rage and it will crush you. I forgive not because I am virtuous. I forgive because I am tired. I realize that continuing to hate is a form of slavery. Stoicism does not tell you to embrace your enemy. It only tells you not to let them live rent-free in your mind. The deepest healing happens when you stop judging your pain is a quiet emancipation. You suffer, then you condemn yourself for suffering. You grieve, then you call yourself weak. And you do not realize that this judgment is the second knife. No emotion is wrong. Only the way we treat emotion is cruel. I learned to tell myself that this sorrow is allowed to exist, that this breaking does not make me lesser, that tears do not shrink my worth. It is acceptance that makes emotions stop fighting to be acknowledged. When you release control, you create space for miracles may sound mythical, but to a Stoic, it is pure psychology. Misery does not come from things breaking. It comes from your refusal to accept that you cannot fix everything. I used to be obsessed with control. I wanted to predict everything, to keep life inside safe borders. And the result was that I shattered because reality refused to cooperate. When I let go, the world did not become kinder, I became more flexible. And what is flexible does not break. The greatest miracle is not that life changes, the miracle is that you change the way you are present in life. The next line, time does not heal. Understanding does, is the one I wish carved into my grave. Time heals nothing if you live blindly. It only covers wounds with dust so they rot inside. Only understanding liberates. Understanding that you were not betrayed, you simply trusted the wrong place. Understanding that you did not fail, you learned through pain. Understanding that you are not inferior, you are growing. Healing does not happen unconsciously. It happens when you dare to ask why, dare to look deeply, dare to untie each knot in the mind. Those who refuse to understand grow old inside unnamed pain. Finally, to all who hurt with everything philosophy has taught me, I say, you are not broken. You are transforming. And transformation is never gentle. It hurts like bones knitting back together. Stoicism taught me that no pain is meaningless if I grow from it. No wound is useless if it strips away illusion. If you have fallen, do not rush to stand. Sit. Look at the wreckage. Choose what to keep. Bury what must be buried. And when you rise, rise as one who has seen the truth. You do not need to return to who you were, you only need to return truthful. There is a painful paradox I took many years to accept. People do not suffer because they lack, they suffer because they refuse to release. We call it loss, but more deeply, it is a collision between reality and illusion. Stoicism did not teach me to accumulate more. It taught me to dismantle. When I read Let Go, not because it hurts, but because peace is more important, I understood that the issue is not pain, but priority. If you place peace where it belongs, you will no longer sacrifice it to keep what is silently killing you. Letting go is not failure. It is the bravest act of a soul exhausted from being hostage to the past. I once clung to a dead relationship like a drowning man clutches rotten wood. I called it love. In truth, it was fear. Fear of emptiness. Fear of beginning again. Fear of facing myself. Stoicism calls this attachment, and attachment is the source of anxiety. Next, when I read, Do not chase happiness, remove what blocks it, I was forced to question my entire emotional education. We are taught to pursue happiness as if it were an object. But no one teaches us how to dismantle the walls within. You do not lack happiness, you are overloaded with barriers. We barricade our hearts with comparison, envy, inferiority, fear, and then wonder why there is no room left for peace. Stoicism does not add items to a wish list. It erases items from a fear list. When you stop living with prejudice against yourself, you become lighter. When you stop condemning yourself, life sounds gentler. The line clinging is the root of fear. Letting go is the seed of peace is to me an uncompromising judgment. Every fear I have has a place it clings to. I fear losing status because I identify with status. I fear poverty because I believe I am the numbers in my bank account. I fear isolation because I place my worth in the eyes of others. Stoicism does not despise possessions or success. It simply refuses to surrender the soul to them. When you are what you own, you lose yourself every time you lose something. And if you have ever lost everything, you will understand the terror of not knowing who you are when all collapses. Letting go does not make you empty. It makes you light. When you do not cling, you do not fear slipping. When you do not possess, you do not panic when you lose. The final line, you are not behind in life, you are exactly where you need to be, is medicine for a generation poisoned by comparison. We measure our lives against other people's timelines and then sentence ourselves as failures. Stoicism tells me there is no universal schedule. No one misses a cosmic train. There is no ruler for the inner journey. You have lived exactly what you were meant to live. Not early, not late, only right on time for a growth you cannot yet see. I used to humiliate myself because others had arrived while I was still wandering. Then I realized people can arrive somewhere without arriving at themselves. As for me, though, slow I am going home. Inner freedom does not come from moving fast. It comes from moving true. And the direction is not outward, it is inward. Letting go does not make you love life less. It lets you love life without being taken hostage by it. Letting go does not make you lose, it gives you back to yourself. I once believed my greatest enemy was circumstance. Then I believed it was other people. Only many years later did I become honest enough to admit it. My most loyal enemy has always been my own mind. It follows me without ever leaving my side. And unlike the outer world, there is no escape from it. When I read, "Your mind can be your greatest prison or your deepest freedom," I knew I was standing before both a verdict and a declaration of release. The mind is neither good nor evil. It is powerful. And power, when untrained, destroys its owner. Stoicism does not ask you to turn off your thinking. It teaches you how to train it. A wild horse can kill you, but when tamed, it can carry you far. So it is with the mind. When you allow thoughts to wander ungoverned, the mind becomes a tyrant. When you learn to observe it, you reclaim your throne. The line "anger is holding a hot coal and expecting another to get burned" made my face flush with shame. How many burning coals have I clutched in my hands, still believing someone else was hurting me? In truth, I was setting myself on fire in silence. Anger creates the illusion of power. It convinces you that you are resisting, but in reality, you are decaying from within. Stoicism does not forbid anger. It simply asks, what price are you paying for it? If you carry anger for months, for years, who then is truly being punished? Letting go of anger is not forgiving the one who hurt you. It is rescuing your soul from a prolonged decay. When I reach the line, "You suffer not from life, but from the story you tell about it," I realized that my entire life had been built from inner narration. I do not suffer only from events. I suffer from interpretation. I suffer from labels. One person is fired and concludes he is worthless. Another is abandoned and concludes she is unlovable. But those are not truths, they are novels you write in your head. Stoicism does not deny events. It denies the tyranny of destructive interpretation. When you learn to tell your life story in a different voice, you do not change the past. You change its authority. Your emotions are messengers, not masters, reminded me not to crown emotion king. Emotions come and go. They inform me that something is out of balance. But if I kneel before them, I surrender sovereignty. Sadness does not command me to despair. Fear has no right to exile me from life. Emotions speak. I choose whether to obey. Stoicism taught me to draw a border between feeling and action. I have the right to feel sorrow. I have no obligation to destroy my life because of it. When you learn to respect emotions without worshiping them, you grow up. I look back at years lived on reflex. If someone angered me, I burned with rage. If someone touched my wound, I would scream. I called that being real. In truth, it was being wild. Stoicism does not make you numb. It makes you free even while you feel, and that freedom is the rarest thing in the world. The deeper I went into philosophy, the less I wanted to win. Not because I became weak, but because I grew weary of battles that did not lead to freedom. There are victories that bring brief delight and leave a lifetime of exhaustion. And there are retreats no one celebrates that quietly save the soul. When I read, "Your peace is more valuable than your need to be right," I realized how many years of my life I had sacrificed to being right. I destroyed relationships to defend arguments. I paralyzed hearts to protect my ego. And I called it integrity. Stoicism forced me into greater honesty. Not everything that is right is worth keeping. Not every truth deserves to be exchanged for peace. When you understand that you do not need to win to deserve existence, you enter freedom. There are those who live to argue, and those who live to understand. I choose to be the second. Do not seek light. Become it opened another definition of morality for me. I no longer search for good people. I no longer wait for someone to lead me. I learn to shine, not by condemning darkness, but by not creating more of it. Stoicism does not ask me to become a saint. It asks me not to become a maker of shadows. When you are awake enough, you do not groan in the night. You light a lamp. When I read, "A peaceful heart creates a peaceful life," I did not take it mystically, I took it physically. A violent mind produces a violent life. A quiet heart softens the world. You cannot live within a storm and blame the sea. The waves outside mirror the waves within. I once blamed life for my fatigue. But when I healed, the way I thought the world stopped snarling. The soul grows quieter when truth becomes louder, taught me that peace does not come from hiding. It comes from daring to live rightly. Fatigue is the cry of a dishonest life. When you live by other people's thoughts, when you chase borrowed values, when you betray yourself in the smallest choices, the soul grows hoarse. I used to live two lives, one to display, one to conceal. And neither gave me rest. Only when I lived one did I begin to breathe. Kindness toward yourself is the beginning of wisdom, left a bitter taste. I could be gentle to strangers and cruel to myself. Stoicism does not teach self-love through indulgence. It teaches self-respect. Respect for fatigue, respect for limits, respect for pain as teacher. Those who are brutal to themselves are not strong. They are self-inflicting. What you love without fear you never truly lose gave me a new view of loss. I do not grieve what left. I grieve how I loved while trembling. Love and fear is contracted love. Love and freedom is whole love. And only what is loved fully does not die. Peace is not when life gives me enough. Peace is when I no longer need life to be different. Light does not come from afar. It rises when you stop darkening yourself. Freedom does not appear when sorrow disappears. It arrives when sorrow stops ruling. And if I could speak one final sentence to anyone in pain, I would say, you are not late to happiness. You are learning not to ruin it. Sit, breathe, release, shine. Thank you for taking these quiet moments to sit with yourself and converse with your soul. Remember, peace is not a distant destination. It is the way we choose to walk through the storm. Do not rush, just breathe, feel, and heal in your own way. If this video brought you a sense of relief, please leave a like and share the quote that resonated with you the most in the comments below. And finally, the journey inward has only just begun. If you are ready to build a resilient mind and find true freedom, do not let this moment pass. Click that subscribe button and turn on notifications right now. Make this channel your sanctuary whenever life gets chaotic. Until next time, walk in peace.